House of Representatives, HD22. My name is Harry Abrams. Welcome to the CCRP candidate interviews.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time out of your campaign to participate in this interview process. We've extended this invitation to all the candidates in this race, and have found that it has been an asset to these voters in making their decision. The video will appear on the Cherokee County GOP website, and every effort will be taken to maintain it exclusively on that site. The interview will be shown in its entirety. For the interview, we'll ask around 30 questions. We can offer no prompting. There are no right or wrong answers, only your answers. We ask each candidate the same questions. If this is all right with you, we'll begin asking the questions.
All right, sounds good. We got a visitor now.
Meagan, good afternoon.
How are you?
Good.
Harry Abrams, Bill Durrell is here. Are you going to participate, Bill?
Absolutely.
First question. Are you currently a member of the Cherokee County Republican Party?
Yes.
Please describe 3 pieces of legislation you would like to see passed, whether creating law or removing, amending existing law.
All right. Well, I would first and foremost like to focus on education. And so I'm not sure if we would need to repeal, amend, or enact legislation when it comes to making sure that our kids are receiving the quality education that they deserve. But I would certainly support legislation that supports education and supports learning in the classroom, teaching and learning. I think we might find ourselves at a loss for how to fund or fully fund or whatever currently. And so I'd like to work on kind of organizing that, maybe eliminating some of the bureaucracy involved in how funds get spent, flexibility to school districts for spending and stuff like that. I would also be interested in expanding and protecting the Second Amendment here in the state of Georgia, expanding our rights and protecting the rights that we do have. That would always be legislation that I would certainly support. And then one of the things that I would like to do and would support fully is doing away with the regional commissions and allowing counties to work together, especially given the transportation issues that we have here in Cherokee County. I think it's critical that we can work with our neighboring counties in order to get some of this stuff done. In particular, you know, the Highway 20 stuff that's going on. So.
Would you introduce yourself, Bill?
Absolutely, Harry. Thank you. Bill Durrell, Cherokee County Republican Party. I know Harry's already said this, but thank you, Meagan, for participating in this.
problem.
It's been a real success and a way for the voters and the citizens to get to know some of the candidates, I think.
Absolutely.
We'll volley these back and forth if you want to, Harry.
Please.
Meagan, what state committees would you like to serve on, and what do you think is the most important issues for those committees for the coming term?
Well, I would love to be on the education committee. With having an education background, being a teacher, I think that I could provide some insight there as far as how legislation directly affects teachers and students in the classroom. I'd also like to be on the Economic Development Committee. The economy is something that I would like to ensure that it remains strong, that Georgia continues to be the number one state in which to do business, and my degree is in economics, so I understand how legislation can impact the economy. Did you ask for 3, or did you just ask which ones? I'm sorry.
Committees and the most
Okay.
important, so that's good.
Those would be my 2 most
Okay.
highly ranked ones.
Excellent, thank you.
What characteristics and qualities do you believe are important for the state House representative to possess?
I think first and foremost, someone who is a good listener, someone who has a strong moral compass and who is going to stand up for what they believe in. I think that we need someone who values the opinions of the constituents, who's willing to talk to them and get input from them about what they think is important for this district and for the state of Georgia.
Okay. And Meagan, some of these I know they're a little redundant because you
That's all right.
participated the last time,
Yep.
but just for the folks that maybe didn't have a chance to see the videos last time, well, we're sort of starting fresh. So, based on your understanding of the Georgia Constitution, what do you believe the role is of a state representative?
Well, to legislate, to make laws that follow the Constitution, for one, and someone who best represents the interest of the people.
Okay.
What is your position on the bill to make certain offices, sheriff, district attorney, county commissioners, court clerk, nonpartisan?
I think any motives to do that are usually, I think the intention's really good, to make people research the candidates. If they don't know a political affiliation, you would hope that voters would do their homework and research the actual, values and beliefs of the candidates. But another part of me thinks that constituents like to identify with a particular party. Most of us do it. The majority of Americans identify with a particular party. And so leaving those races partisan kind of allow you to research the candidates who you believe already kind of coincide with your beliefs. But I see value in both sides. I would certainly like to think that voters are doing their research before they cast a ballot.
Excellent, thank you. And your position on term limits?
I see value in term limits as well. I think, there's a lot of fault with someone going down there to just make a career out of being a politician. They kind of lose contact with the voters. They lose their interest in what's going on in their district. But in the same breath, we don't want to take that voice away from the voters. If you get someone that is good and the voters want to keep them in office, I think taking that right away from them is not something we need to be doing right now. As someone put it to me, we have the best form of term limits. We can vote people out of office basically whenever we want. So if people are paying attention and they're watching during the election cycle, I think that's the best way to utilize term limits.
Excellent, thank you.
What is the purpose of the Second Amendment? Do you believe the federal gun control laws are constitutional? Does the state have the right to confiscate firearms in an emergency?
Well, the Second Amendment protects my right to own firearms, and no, I do not believe that the state has the right to confiscate weapons during times of emergency.
No.
Okay. And Megan, what's your opinion of constitutional carry, and how about the current limitations on carry, such as campuses and churches?
I would like the definition of campus to, of course, be limited to college campus, not high school campus at all. But we do have some students considered adults in high school still, and so that worries me. It concerns me a little bit as far as the slippery slope, that what are we going to allow people to do. I definitely believe that any law-abiding citizen should be able to obtain and carry firearms. And as far as current legislation goes at the state level, I feel like we are, even though they're baby steps, we are moving in the right direction to restoring a lot of our Second Amendment rights.
Okay, good, thank you.
What does the 10th Amendment mean to you? Do you believe that states have the right to nullify unconstitutional federal laws?
I do. When I teach the Constitution, when I'm in my U.S. history class, I spend a long time on the Constitution, and especially the first 10 amendments, because I think it's important that students, people in general, know what we do, the rights that we do have, and anything not specifically granted to the federal government is supposed to be reserved for the states, and any rights not given to the federal, government are supposed to be reserved for the people. So I do believe, the states have the power to nullify federal laws that they believe to be unconstitutional.
Megan, are there conditions in which you would advocate either raising existing taxes or implementing new taxes?
No.
What is the state of Georgia's role in immigration, securing the border, and amnesty? Would you support a 24-hour, state of Georgia's role in immigration, securing the border, and amnesty?
Okay. I think we need to enforce the laws that are already there. I think we've gone for too long kind of ignoring the people that are breaking the laws, and I think if we could enforce the laws that were there, people might start taking us more seriously about what we're going to do if they break our laws. So it's one of those slippery slopes where people come in illegally. They also, you see it every day with children even, how much can I get away with? How much can I get away with? So if we continue not to enforce those laws, then I think we open ourselves up for even more of that behavior.
Okay, Megan, with Would you support a 24-hour or other minimum time frame after which a bill could be voted on in its final form rather than the current method?
Will you repeat that one more time?
Sure.
So after it's been read,
Right, well, actually, if you want, we can move ahead. Do you know the current method on which a bill is?
yes.
Okay. And would you support a 24-hour or other minimum time frame after which a bill could be voted on in its final form rather than the current method?
I guess I would need more. I'd like to see more about why people think it works or it doesn't work the way it already is before I support any legislation or resolution changing it. Just kind of hear both sides, because I know there are people that support that and there are people that are opposed to it. So I'd just like, I don't want to say statistics, but something kind of backing up why we shouldn't do that. So
Thank you.
I'd be open to listening to them, though.
What is the current method?
What is the current method for, well,
That's
you
the
watched, didn't
legislation.
you? Committee, and then, if it makes it out of committee, it will be read. Are we asking for the whole, then it can be amended and voted on and all that, and then passed to the other chamber, and then the same thing kind of happens, and then all sorts of debacle and heck breaks loose because we want to change it one way or attach it to our bill and try to push it through and gut this bill and attach it to another bill, the whole 9 yards. Or basically, it's got to be passed with the exact same wording through both chambers, unless we have a conference committee, and then we would want to see both houses or both chambers vote on it, and then it would be, if it passes, it would go to the governor.
Okay, having said that, are you in favor of requiring time be given for reading of a bill prior to voting on it?
Yeah, I think that's wise. I'm not a fan of you have to pass it to see what's in it.
Do you support HB 309, Ava's law, as it relates to the state requiring insurance coverage for autism?
That's such an emotional issue. Of course, I want insurance companies to support children with autism. But again, we would find ourselves in, I think, an ACA type situation where the government is mandating that private enterprise provide some sort of service. So I'd much rather see insurance companies kind of opt into that structure where they are supporting families and children in need. And on a personal level, absolutely, I would want to see that. It's hard to legislate something so emotional, though, to mandate a business do something.
Bill?
Thank you, Harry. Meagan, do you support the medical marijuana bill that came up this previous session?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the same thing, that was in dealing with children with particular seizure disorders and stuff like that, and no one wants to look a parent in the face and say, sorry, we're not going to help your child. But I think the issue comes in with where are we going to get it from? It's against federal law to traffic it into Georgia. And then no research university or institution has said that they would grow it here because they don't want to risk losing their federal funding. So again, it's difficult to legislate no matter, do I support it? Absolutely. Because I think if there's, as a parent, I can't imagine the frustration that there's something out there that could help your child and not being able to do it. But legislating for that is difficult because we run into a whole plethora of issues as far as where are we going to get it from, and then what are we going to do? There's a slippery slope where when you start to legalize one aspect, how far are you going to go?
Sure,
So.
thank you.
What is your position on the Affordable Care Act?
I'm opposed to it. I don't believe that the government should force you to purchase something and then fine you if you can't. I think that is way beyond the scope of how our government was set up.
Bill?
Oh, Meagan, when's the government allowed to take actions inconsistent with or against the Constitution?
Never. Allowed? Never. When have they?
Again, yeah.
So.
Thank you.
What is the unemployment rate in your district? Do you accept?
You're trying to ask me more than one question. No, that's okay.
What is the unemployment rate in your district?
It is, I believe the latest numbers were 5.6% in Cherokee County, which is pretty well below state and national averages, which is very good. I think we've done a good job.
Megan, do you accept donations from outside your district? And if yes, how does your outside district donations affect your decision making?
Well, yes, I do. I had family support me, friends support me, businesses support me. I believe that a donation, no matter who it's from, is someone's right. It's part of their freedom of speech to say who they think the better candidate is. Everyone who donates to me, though, knows and hears from me directly that a donation is just that. It's a donation. It's an investment in our future. It is in no way going to make me beholden to them, their special interest, anything, if we limit that ability of people to contribute, I think sometimes we start with an unlevel playing field. But I think that, I can take a donation from someone without being afraid of any retribution or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
22?
PAC, yeah, PAC and lobby.
I wanted to make sure I was there. Are you receiving PAC or lobbyist contributions? If so, how will your decision-making process be affected by lobbyists or PAC money?
Same type thing. I think that there's nothing wrong with a PAC, a lobbyist who I know, or who maybe someone I don't know personally, but thinking, if they've done their research and they believe me to be the better candidate, I think that we should allow them to make that statement with their money. I don't think that holds me accountable to any of their special interests at all. I think they understand it as an investment, and it's a donation, and they want to put, their money where their mouth is, and if they believe I'm the better candidate, I think they should be allowed to do that.
Megan, can you describe the geographic boundaries of your district and how much of the district includes Cherokee County?
Yes, there's about 80% of the district that is in Cherokee County, roughly. It's a very large geographic region because it's very sparsely populated. It encompasses the entire northeast corner of the county. A small portion of it goes west of 575, and then we come down through Canton, Ball Ground, Freehome, Nelson, down Scott Road, I believe it is, to Univetter, over. It's an interesting looking district if you look at it. The most interesting parts are the couple of Milton precincts thrown in there, and then Forsyth County, and then we even have some Woodstock addresses in there, so it's a very large district.
Thank you.
For solutions to the traffic and other infrastructure issues, do you support the regional approach, such as the Atlanta Regional Commission, or another method of dealing with these issues?
I would support abolishing the regional method altogether, the regional authorities, and allowing counties to work together. I know that was kind of redundant from something I said earlier, I'm sorry, but I think that, of course, Cherokee County recognizes their transportation issues best. We live here, we either work here or commute from here, and I think we should be able to get together with, Cobb County, Bartow, Pickens, Forsyth, whoever we need to work with and open up the lines of transportation. I think we should be able to do that.
Megan, again, some of these are redundant, but we're trying to balance it because different things, you might have some things that have changed in the way of some of the policies between it. But what do you think the state's role should be in regards to alternative energy sources or subsidies? I'm about to say this. Sorry, okay. I don't believe in government subsidies using taxpayer dollars to subsidize industries. If those industries are successful on their own merit, I think that's great. But I don't believe that the taxpayer dollars should be used to subsidize private industry.
There are a number of issues the agriculture industry is facing in Georgia, including water use, state and federal regulation compliance, tax reform, and immigration reform. What is your plan to address these issues for the agriculture community in Cherokee County?
Okay, will you repeat the
Now, we're looking at water use, state and federal regulation compliance, tax reform, and immigration.
And in regards to agriculture.
In regards to agriculture.
Okay, and immigration reform was one of those?
Correct.
Okay, so this is a huge question, but I think that we have to fully, well, I don't know that we'll ever fully understand, but we certainly need to recognize the impact of any immigration reform or agriculture farm bills, or how the impact that would have on our local economy. But as far as each individual subset of that question, I would have to look into those more. I know that, of course we need farming, we need, to sustain our own growth and our own population, but how that would be impacted by legislation, I'm not sure yet. I would look into that.
Good. Meagan, what's your opinion on the Common Core State Standards Initiative?
Well, my opinion is, I like that I teach high school social studies because I'm not directly impacted by that. But from what I've seen, having a child in the system and listening to people talk more and more about this over the past few months, is that it's highly misunderstood as far as what exactly it is. But I'm not in favor of any government top-down approach to education. I do believe that, if we opt into a program that was developed by states and local school boards, or at the state level we opt into it, I think that it can be a feasible undertaking to standardize kind of what's going on. The example I like to use is I teach U.S. history, and students in my class have to take a test in May, whether they have been in my class since August or move here in March. And so I would like to ensure at some level that that student came from a U.S. history classroom. That's all. I don't care what books their teacher's using. I don't care what resources she pulls, or if she has all the technology in the world or none. But to know that they're going to be taking a standardized test in May that is U.S. history based, I just want to know they came from a U.S. history classroom. And so I find value in standardizing as far as that goes. But as far as saying we have a national mandated curriculum, I don't, that's not necessarily what it is. I found that my opinion of it is that it's extremely misunderstood in most cases.
Okay.
What are your most important interests outside of your current work?
My family. I have 2 small children, and my husband is wonderful. He's usually at home with them, so I can be at stuff like this. And our church, we spend quite a bit of time at church. I also coach cheerleading. I have volunteered with a couple of different clubs at school, but FCA and the Spirit Club, and I really like instilling in our students the sense of community that we have here. And I've also recently been asked to sit on the board of directors for the Peach Project, which is a really unique, I think, organization that's going to help try to educate doctors to help them identify victims of domestic violence who might normally not be identified anywhere else. So it's been interesting.
Meagan, the school system millage rate is currently capped at 20 mills. Mm-hmm. Are there any circumstances where you would vote with the delegation to support an increase in that with the state?
No.
29.
Would you work with those across the aisle to pass a budget?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think we need a balanced budget every year. I think that's one of the unique things about Georgia is that our Constitution requires a balanced budget. And I think, yeah, you have to be able to work well with others to be a good leader. Hopefully, if you're a really good leader, the people on the other side are listening to you. And you're not having to listen to them, right? No.
Thank you. Do you support the fair tax or the consumption tax or some other alternative plan to those?
I do. I think that, there are many innovative ways where we can collect revenue for the government without the burden of the income tax, for sure.
The state collects monies for business license renewals, environmental issues, and other transactions in what can be categorized as funds. The monies collected are lumped into the general fund. Mm-hmm. Should fees collected in the above individual funds be actually used as the legislation intended, or just placed into the general fund for appropriation as the legislature sees it?
I thing, all of these fees and surcharges and whatnot are essentially taxes to the consumer, because most of, or the producer, if it's a business license. And anytime you tax a consumer or producer, productivity goes down, consumption goes down. So I think if the fees aren't being used in the way in which they were described, they should be returned to the consumer. The fees and surcharges should be reassessed, eliminated, or decreased at minimum.
Okay. Megan, the final few, again, these are redundant, but just as a formality, have you ever had any license revoked or not renewed for cause, or been the subject of professional discipline, cited for breach of ethics or unprofessional conduct by any bar association, disciplinary committee, court, administrative agency, or other professional group?
No.
Have you been expelled from any organization?
No.
Have you or your organization or business under your control ever declared a bankruptcy or been sued or currently facing liens or other financial issues?
No.
Have you ever been arrested for or convicted of any crime excluding minor traffic offenses?
No.
Please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how you resolved it.
An ethical dilemma and how I resolved it. I know this question gave me problems last time too. I'm trying to think. You know, being a teacher, I feel like we are under intense scrutiny always to do, you know, the right thing or the best thing or however you want to phrase it. And this wasn't me personally, but I had a very difficult time in dealing with students when, you know, some stuff happened at school that was not above water, and how to reinsure or reinstate trust in these students for adults and teachers, and kind of, you know, show them that there are people out there who do have their best interest at heart and who will work for them, and to ensure that trust is met every day. You know, I think that's my biggest challenge every day, is making sure that those kids trust me, you know.
Good. So. Good, thank you. And are you currently connected or to any outstanding unpaid taxes in any way?
No.
Okay.
One other question. Would you support a constitutional amendment to require monies as funds collected actually to be used for the intended legislation?
I'm sorry.
We covered that one a minute ago.
Not that particular section on doing a constitutional amendment?
Oh, the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you support a constitutional amendment to require monies called funds collected actually be used for the intended legislation?
Yes. I think that's important because, and I think we've seen this with numerous surcharges and fees, that once the government has their hands in our pocket, it's very difficult for them to remove the hand, especially when the money is flowing, you know, fairly freely. So yeah, I think it would be important. That would be you know, to me, that's part of the transparency issue, that we want to make sure that funds that we say are going for one purpose are actually going to that purpose.
Did you have anything else there?
No. Is there anything else we should know that has not been addressed? And obviously you have some free time here to address those issues you want to present to the voters.
I think I'm the best candidate, and they should vote for me on May 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meagan.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hear probably mention this. These questions were submitted from all over the district, and we appreciate those folks that submitted them, and we appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.